Well, I'll just sit in place from there.
Yeah, you know a lot about listings.
How's it going? Wendy,
Hi,
who are you?
I'm Wendy Monday with Parks Real Estate, and I'm here to talk about listings.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what is, how is this gonna work with our topics? What do we got?
So there are 54 general categories: preparing a listing, launching a listing.
You're
We're
running.
not
the show.
exactly today.
That's okay. Tell everybody she was great without her jacket.
Nobody's finished.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. Excellent. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today for our super seller panel. We're so lucky today to have Wendy Monday and Mary Beth Thomas to help us learn some of their secrets to success and working with sellers and listings. We'll start with Wendy, and Wendy has over 15 years of experience selling in Nashville and leads a select team of agents: Natalie Sawyer, Carolyn Melvin, and we have Mary Beth here, along with client services coordinator Kelly Monday, and they're dedicated to making the process smooth for every client. Wendy personally invests in all kinds of real estate, and she's passionate about the business. She bought her first house in 2007 and got her real estate license in 2008. Ooh.
Yes.
And
Great years to do both those
she
things.
loved real estate back then. Even it was hard to love it at that time, and she continues to be enthusiastic about it today. Wendy and her husband own several commercial and residential investment properties in and around Nashville, including a log cabin Airbnb in Houston Springs, an office in Germantown, and a 5,000 square foot commercial space in East Nashville. Wendy and her husband JT and their little boy Wolf live in the Germantown neighborhood of Nashville in the 1880s, and they renovated and restored in 2019. And she is at Wendy Monday Selling Nashville on Instagram. And we'll go on and introduce Mary Beth Thomas. She'll be here shortly. Mary Beth has become one of Nashville's most respected real estate professionals and is known for giving both sellers and buyers a competitive advantage. With an average closed transaction of $2 million plus, Mary Beth has become the go-to person for builders in the Nashville area. She's ranked as one of the highest listing agents in Nashville and represents some of the most exclusive properties in the city. Mary Beth excels in assessing and understanding current market conditions and developing marketing and sales strategies to suit her clients' requirements. She works with a wide variety of clients in industries such as healthcare, music, and technology, as well as with colleges and universities. Raised in Dallas, Texas, Mary Beth is an art history graduate of Vanderbilt University and loves studying with Vanderbilt in France in Aix-en-Provence while she was at Vanderbilt. She has 3 sons: Jay, an engineer for Exxon, Brian, an engineer for Boeing, and Billy, an engineering student in his 3rd year at Auburn. And she is at Wendy Thomas Realtor on Instagram. Thank you so much for being here today. Our format today, we're going to cover a couple of general areas, but within that, Mary Beth and Wendy will be layering on some specific their secret sauce in each of these areas. We're going to start with preparing a listing, and we'll move into launching a listing, maintaining that listing, and then what to do if it's not selling. And this is going to be an interactive day. So if you have questions, please just raise your hand, let us know. And as we have opportunities, we'll feed those over to our panelists and get all their little secrets. So get your pens ready. All right, and with that, if you're okay with it, Wendy, let's just start with preparing the listing and how do you go about that process.
Okay. I always say, and this is one of my favorite phrases, fortune favors the prepared mind. So if you go into launching a listing with the listing already well prepared, things are going to go much more smoothly. One of the first things I do is go to the house and walk through it with the clients. Clients are almost always going to want to know what your sales price is, and that is like 3 or 4 steps down the road. So I always tell them, like, it would be a bad idea for me to tell you even like a hypothetical number about what I think your house is worth or what number I would list it for right now, because that's going to anchor in your mind. And I want to see the house, experience the house, really feel it with you, and give you a real assessment of what I think the price is, not just pull something from the internet and look at some comps and not ever having been in the house. Zillow can do that, and we all know how accurate those are. So one of the first things I do is I go over to the house and I walk through it with them. Preparing the listing is saying to them how you live and how you sell are different. So we're going to have to get rid of a lot of your stuff. That means a couple of things. Sometimes I go through a house with somebody if it's occupied, and I say, in this room, I'm going to tell you what we're going to leave, not what we're going to get rid of. And I think that's an important distinction to make, because rather than like making a list of 400 knickknacks that you want them to like store somewhere, go in and say, leave that chair, that table, that painting, that plant. And frankly, that's a better, like a better sales process, a better presentation than like kind of pulling out one thing at a time all the way around.
Often I'll get a stager to come and help me with that part.
Yeah.
Because honestly, sometimes I don't want to be the one to say that needs.
Yes.
So I love bringing in a stager, even if it's a stager coming in as a consult.
Yes.
Versus
Yeah.
actually doing any staging.
Yeah. And that's a good point. Like stagers sometimes will bring in, like a room will need a big piece of like colorful art, not a bunch of little tiny stuff that maybe you picked up here and there over the years, but like take all that away and we need one piece of statement art. Because the fewer things that your like eye has to take in when you walk in a room, the better you feel. The less you have to process, the more you can experience the house.
Do you talk to people a lot about photos and other things that are just distracting? Like
Yes.
You want people to focus in on the house itself versus, oh, who is this? Where they get the diploma from?
Yes. Yeah. I think diplomas and school, college things are things that people really want to leave in. And frankly, that's the thing that people will attach to the most. So better to just take that out. They'll make some assumptions about, you as a seller, or just they'll anchor that in their head as well. So yeah, take them out.
I want to apologize for being late. I was on the phone with my marketing person and I got a little caught up in some of the things we're working on. So apologize to you.
No worries. What else in preparing? What else do you do? After you go through and you say, take most of your things out, let's get this into a retail shop space, not a I live here space.
I've been a little spoiled lately because I've sold so many houses for a builder, and Brandon comes in and he brings all of his stuff in. So I've been kind of spoiled. So using the stager has really helped me a lot. Instead of what else? I give them a list of the vendors. Like, okay, here's your window washer person. It's $159 to call APS, and you want to do a yard refresh, like just kind of some of the vendors. We need a paint refresh. Is that what you're?
Yeah.
Or your kind of thing?
Yeah. Paint, gutters, windows, grout sometimes needs to be
Right.
done. All of these little things, it seems like it
Deep
seems like
clean.
deep clean. Whenever somebody experiences a house, they make a lot of assumptions again about how well it's built or how well it's been taken care of by some little details that seem inconsequential to you as the seller. Like, why would they care about that? It just adds up in their head. They might not even be able to articulate it.
Another thing I'm really picky about is just, I think it goes to show how the little details matter, but it really matters to me if my sign is clean. It matters to me if my sign is level when I put it out. It matters to me if I've got my pointers out, if they're fresh and clean. So I think every little detail does matter because it all adds up to the pride we feel in the job that we're doing and presenting the house on the market too.
How much do you think you've spent on pointers over the years?
Oh gosh.
I know, right?
So excited for some new ones.
Yeah, absolutely. What else in preparing? And this is all before photos. So
Is it okay to do questions now?
I would love,
Sure.
I would love back and forth.
Question, I've got a listing coming up in Oak Hickory, which gives you an idea of the price. You guys do primarily high-end stuff. And so this house needs, they need to do some stuff here. Is there a dollar, is there a sliding scale? If these sellers kind of can afford to put $7,000 into making their house look better on a mid-300s probably sale. So Wendy, how do you adjust, or how do you adjust telling them what to do, repair the grout, refresh the yard, paint everything? I mean, you have a rule of thumb for that? Or-
I don't have a rule of thumb, but I would say I look and see what can a person do at a minimal expenditure.
Yeah.
Fresh and clean, I think just goes a long way, you know, get it really clean, get it decluttered. If the yard can't be done, maybe they can just at least move some of the mulch around, but. You know, but no, I do have a listing coming on the market that's in the 300s. And so I've been balancing a lot of that. They're doing a lot of their own painting, but really, I think what buyers want to see is fresh and clean. That's the main thing. And then everything else is a bonus on top of that.
Yeah, I think things that don't cost a lot of money, but cleaning, for sure, how something smells, how you experience it when you go in the house, you know, like that's, smell is one of our strongest indicators of like memory and just experience in the world in general. So like, if it feels fresh, if it feels clean, if it smells clean, then you're, you know, halfway down the road. Mulch is not an expensive thing, and it's the thing that like tidies up the front entrance, and they really decide, it's called priming. Like they see the house and before they go in, and they think to themselves, this is how I'm going to experience this house because of how it's set up on the outside.
And over the years, people talk a lot about the front door, the front porch. We're standing there, our clients are standing there, they see the cobwebs, they see the dirty front door. Magic eraser does a lot of wonders on that front door. So having that front moment, that front space where you're sitting there thinking, do I like this house or not? So we're sitting there fumbling. I'm usually fumbling with my phone, trying to get the lockbox open.
Yeah.
I brought some of my marketing plans. This is a step before we're actually there getting the house ready for the market. My marketing coordinator, who made me late today, and she's come up with customizing a new marketing plan for me. So before I actually do my marketing presentation with them, a listing presentation, I'll have a picture of the house printed on the front of my marketing plan. I customize it, I put their name on it. And then I've gone through and she feels strongly that pictures are the main thing. So we did some lifestyle photos here. So that's a picture of her and I working. Then, and we don't have a lot of words on this, but it's more like creating the impression of, we know that image matters because we're marketing the house. So everybody that knows me knows I love light blue. So I've got my signature blue color here. And so they get to have a little experience of me, like as goofy and silly as I am. And then a couple other things I did was I put my bio is in here. And then I started writing down my sales that I did for the past year, which will paint a picture of, oh, not only do I sell luxury in Green Hills, but I also sell investment properties. And so I think doing a little customized approach with your listing, taking the boilerplate of what we have here and then adding to it something that makes it feel personal to you. To take the nuts and bolts of the Village Parks marketing listing presentation and then adding to it. I'll pass these around if anybody wants to take a peek.
And I do something similar. I have a seller guide and a seller questionnaire on my website. And so you can fill that out as much or as little as you want to. But one of the questions is, if you were going to rate your house 1 to 5, where would you rate it? And you would think everybody gets 5, and people don't all go 5. And you ask the question, like, if there's something that you were going to do to the house, if you were going to live here another couple of years, what would it be? You know, or would you change a backsplash? Would you add a deck? Would you, renovate the master bath? And they'll write that in there. And so like I have a link that I send to them to say, like, fill this out. And that way I get a sense before I go even to the first visit of their house, what it is they feel about their own home and what they want to change. A lot of times people will really start to fixate on a thing about their house that they wanted to do.
Right.
And it will be kind of expensive and overwhelming to them.
Mm-hmm.
And it won't move the needle at all for the listing. But it's just something that's been bugging them. And I'm like, you can just forget about that thing. Let's do these 5 things that I know need to get done.
Do you ever ask people what they love the most about their house?
Yes.
I do that a lot. What room do you like to spend time in? What have you enjoyed the most about your house or living here in this neighborhood?
Yeah.
So just hearing from them, and then they'll often give me some great tools and words to use as I describe.
Yes.
Describe that in my marketing information and meeting with people.
Yeah.
I also brought, oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I mean, at what point are you showing that, then you present that to
I've done usually, as we talked earlier in the sales meeting today, I usually do a first visit, a quick walk through the house, introduce myself, try to build some rapport with people, and then do a quick walk through the home. I'm here just today to take a look at your home, to get an idea of what you've done, what the house is like, because especially in the areas I focus in, older historic homes, no two homes are alike. It's not a cookie cutter. So I go once for a first visit, and then I say, I'm going to go back home, do my homework now, and then I come back and then I present that. So then I can customize my listing presentation a little bit, whether I need to adjust my compensation, for example, or talk about how I'm going to market the house. It might be I need to change some of the bullets there. So I like that look and feel a whole lot better than what I was doing before. And usually it's pretty basic. So
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So Zach was talking earlier in the sales meeting about unstaged properties, vacant properties. And so when you don't have anything to work with there, how do you approach that? And any rules of thumb on ROI on doing that, how you have that conversation with the seller, why they're going to need to spend X to get that?
I feel so strongly about the staging. A vacant house just feels empty, cold, not as inviting. People have a harder time relating to it. They think the rooms are either too big or too small. So at a minimum, we've gone to TJ Maxx. We bought some things. I take from my
I
house.
was going to say, bring things from your own house. I do that
I'll just
more
do,
than my husband is comfortable with.
and I typically do not pay for staging for people, but every once in a while, if it's what really needs to be done and I know that I can sell it more quickly, and I don't know, sometimes I have paid for some of this staging, or I'll offer to split the cost of that with people. But I feel so passionately about it that or sometimes I've had some clients that have had really great success and said, would you like to talk to one of my clients who's used the staging, who's very strongly against it?
I feel extremely strongly about staging as well. I don't like to have an empty house. I don't like to have a vacant house with nothing in it. It's just hard for it to have any energy. And it's hard for someone to experience or see themselves in it. And even if they're not going to have the style of the staging,
Right.
Or that kind of furniture, if it's on trend and beautiful and fits the space and makes all the rooms make sense, they feel like they're going to live in it that way. It just, I can't tell you an instance where I'd say to myself, man, I really don't, I'd rather not stage this.
No.
I don't know that I've ever thought
No.
of.
Do you have
Totally
any
agree.
questions?
Sorry.
Oh, no, go
My
ahead.
question, Greg, I totally agree with y'all, but how much, it's a big vacant house, they build like 5,000 square feet or something.
Yeah.
Do you every room, or do you just have, you mix it?
I do the living room, the dining room, the primary suite at a minimum.
Okay. You don't necessarily do a bedroom.
No, not the secondary bedrooms. I don't feel like need to be staged necessarily. Sometimes there's a weird little nook where a great like sitting area would be, or a reading area, or a place for a desk or something like that. Like you would want to make sure you utilize that space. Anything that's odd.
Right.
Or
Outdoor as well?
that's where all my furniture is right now, is staging a house. To call back to that, like my husband's like, where are our patio chairs? I was like, don't worry about it.
The front porch is always a good place to do some staging.
Okay.
Either flowers, there's even some places, I can't remember the name, but there's a place that rents flowers, like flower pots and things for staging.
Yeah. 615 Hive. Is that
That's
who you told me?
what I
You
think so.
told me. Yeah.
That's a good-
Yeah. And something live by the front door, again, just harkening back to psychology, the psychology of a buyer, like something alive by the front door makes you feel better.
Do you have questions? Yes.
So I have a question about your businesses, each of you separately. At what point starting off as agents, obviously you started to, like, what point you started to get listings and gain momentum and move into the luxury market? For each of you, it's different, I know. So love to hear more about that.
I started so long ago, it's hard to really relate at this point, because right now so much of my business is referral. But I think just being excited to talk about what you're focused on, what you're learning here at Village, what you're learning about the market. I find that going out and previewing the houses, I was able to see what was on the market, what was available. It gave me something to talk to my friends, former business associates. It's just like that, having an excitement and a passion about what you're doing as you're talking to everybody that you meet. Does that make sense? Like, it's about talking to people about real estate, telling them they're excited about working in the business. Maybe even finding somebody that's more busy than you are at this point and saying, hey, I'm here to help. I'm looking for some opportunities. Can I host some open houses for you? By hosting the open houses, you'll meet people. And then if you host open houses in the same area over and over again, the same people are coming back. And so it's just about being active, being proactive in those kind of ways. There might be a team that's really busy that would want you to team up and help them with something. I feel like I really am not as interested in working in Hendersonville. And my office mate, Millie Monday, works there. So if I get a listing in Hendersonville, I think she's the first person I'm gonna call and say, hey, Millie, will you co-work this with me? So it's thinking creative, a little bit outside the box, and always be thinking, what can I do now?
I think people are going to hire you for one of two things. Either there's a personal connection or you have some sort of track record that they can like relate to. So when you don't have the track record, it's going to be a personal relationship. My first listing was probably my first 10 listings were all like pretty close personal relationships. But they knew I was serious about the business, that I was working in it every day, that it wasn't something I did on the side or something that I wasn't immersed in. So people who were personal connections of mine took a chance with me as a new person who was a listing agent. But that was, again, that was so long ago. Like,
but also I think about where streams of my business have come from. So when I had young kids, I would get out of my car in the pickup line and I would just go and talk to everybody. And I would just talk to people, what are they doing? And I got a ton of business from working the hookup line. Then when I was on a running group, I was talking always about what I was doing with real estate, what was I learning, what was I looking at, I got tons of business from my running group. So it's whatever your passion is and the people that are in your world, just being open about what you're learning and finding. And at one time I called a client and said, I just saw the most amazing house. He was in the music industry. And I said, do you know of anybody looking for one of the most amazing houses in the Hillsborough Village area? And he said, you're not going to believe it, but that is Nancy's very favorite house. She would love to buy it. And she bought it. And then she sold it. And then she bought another house. And 4 or 5 transactions later is because I thought to share something that I was excited about that he might know of somebody.
Yeah. And a lot of it will also come from your like geographic region, like your neighborhood. People will start to see you as the person in your immediate area. You live there, you know it well, you know it better than anybody ostensibly. So they will hopefully start to see you as the person who knows about their neighborhood, and you'll start to sell in your own neighborhood.
Today during the sales meeting, I had a big light bulb go off in my head because Hunter shared that 1,000-watt diagram thing about 93% of buyers that are in this demographic 22 or 25 to 40 are looking for houses. And I thought, that's my kids' age. My children are that age. So what am I going to do to connect with my adult children's friends? And how can I team up? And I might look for somebody younger to help me really go after that market. Like, what would they be looking for? There's all these new developments that David Doris and Brian Stolzfus and all those guys are working on that might be a price point that would be affordable to that younger demographic. So immediately I started thinking, what can I do with that data, knowing that those people are interested in buying, and then be proactive in going after it.
Yeah. I would say it's easy to say like, oh, well, your network, work your network. You've heard these things as agents, you know that that's supposed to be the thing that you're doing is reaching out and connecting with people and working your sphere. Things that have come to me that I did not, cold leads, I did not know the person at all, and they called me and asked me to sell their house. Who were those people? I had one in the past 12 months, I can think of one where I had sold one in the neighborhood, and I had my Google place fleshed out, like my Google business page really well, like organized, a lot of activity on it. And I had reviews on Google. And so they, Googled in their neighborhood, like Nashville realtors in their neighborhood, and I popped up. So outside of just, the nuts and bolts ninja stuff, which I fully believe in,
Right.
like if you want to augment your business with some other stuff, like that's the way to do it.
I think also that Chad, who always is working in a coffee house, from what I can tell, is, being out there, going to charity events, just being out in the neighborhood and in the community and being involved and active. that's what you gotta do, even if you don't want to, just getting out there and being.
And see, I'm not out and about, like, I'm asleep by 8, it's a glorious thing, I'm up by 5, this is how I live my life, and I like it. But I do love video, I do love social media, I do love the, like, internet connection side of things. Do I like a bunch of random internet leads that tell me they want to connect with me on WhatsApp? No, but I don't use any of those. I feel like what I do is very strongly put my, like, type of business out there, the type of person I'm out there. I think if you look at my Instagram, you look at my social media, you get a sense of what type of agent I am. If you want to work with me, those internet leads kind of self-select.
Right.
And now I've started to really augment my YouTube channel. So now you can go to that and you can really see what I am like online. And if that resonates with you as a buyer or seller, then you connect with me. So like those random internet leads have kind of been whittled down. Only people who really connect, like, can see something about me and want to work with me. Did you have a question?
I do. So there's a balance between like being assertive and aggressive, like going after all those things. So if somebody said to you, like, I'm gonna need to sell in the next month in casual conversation, what are ways that you're assertive and kind of follow up with them? What might you do to offer value without being pushy or aggressive to go get that listing?
I would start with a thank you, like as soon as you leave their house that day or the next day, sending them a thank you card. And so that they see that you're proactive. And then I would look for ways to provide value to them. Like, you know, maybe you saw something come on the market or something sold, like provide data to them. Just, that's my first thought, was like provide information, whether you have the listing or not, but, or if you hear somebody looking for a house like that with one of our agents here, and then call and say, I just heard of somebody that's looking for exactly a house like yours. Like, just be, does that make sense? Like, just constantly looking for, how do I provide value? That was the main thing Rick French taught me years and years ago, is like, I don't like sending out as many little cards about gardening and things, but how can I provide value to people so that they know I'm proactive? And then by you doing those kind of things, they're gonna say, wow, this agent is on it. She's not waiting, this is a big topic we talked about. You're not waiting for something to happen, you're creating stuff. So, and we'll talk about that later once the listing gets on.
Did you have a question? Sorry, I thought you
Okay,
were minute.
yeah.
So, no?
No.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. We'll keep moving forward on this. So we covered, covered preparing the listing, and went back a little bit to getting the listing and getting the business. And now maybe we'll move forward into launching a listing. So you've gotten the business, you've already prepared, you've moved the mulch around. It's time to go.
This is my favorite part.
Me too.
And that's because you get to do all of the things. I'm a very process-oriented person, and I know you are too. So you get to have a checklist, and like, it needs to be this, 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 and this. And my listing checklist is this long. It's not just taking professional photos, it's having it professionally measured, which comes into play in appraisal and room sizes and all kinds of things. Like, it just gives you a credibility on the back end. Also, the image of a floor plan online is very helpful to a lot of people, and in a lot of markets, it's standard. I do video. I do a video now of houses. I do a video of the neighborhood. I create a map of the house and points of interest around it.
Your maps are great. You've really been leading the.
I appreciate that. I do see my map a lot now.
It's really good.
Yeah, imitations. Since yours from form of flavor, go with it. All those kinds of things, like all that checklist. There's a lot that goes into putting it online. And
How long does it take you to typically go through your process to get all that together?
it takes, it takes a while. Like the video and the listing photos alone, that'll be at least a week. I want there to be a blog post on my blog about this listing. I want there to be a QR code of the video in the house. I want there to be a QR code, like an image of it on the listing, in the listing photo, so that you are triggered to know that there is a video of it. Because if you're looking on Zillow or Redfin or Realtor.com or something like that, if I've spent all this money on this video, you don't know that it's there necessarily. If you're just a consumer
Sitting
looking,
there.
yeah. So I want you to at least think to yourself, well, I'll Google it, and I'll see this walkthrough video.
I do a lot of that, but not as much video as Wendy does. I then am gearing everything up to my social media launch and posting things about in my main thing everybody kind of knows me for is my events. So we kind of get everything ready to go. Then we usually will launch the listing with a big party. So depending on the price point, depends on my budget, but my last party for bringing in was a $12,000 party, which, you know, is a $4 million listing. And that was a little over the top, but you know, if it's something else, sometimes it'll be like, oh, this one is over in Sylvan Park. I want to have Bobby Zeri do something, or I want to do, I kind of look for a theme that works with the house, with the personality of the house, with the personality of that neighborhood. And then I spend a lot of time focusing on getting the word out about the party. We then have invitations via email that go out to all the realtors. We have invitations that are on textable format, because there's a different format for sending things out via text versus email. So then once those emails have gone out pretty strong, pretty heavy, you all know, then I start texting some of the people I think might really have buyers for that and giving them a personal invitation from that. Some events I've dropped off gifts for agents, whether little bottles of bubbles or a cookie or even just a card. And then I follow all that stuff up with, like, one party we did was a holiday party at Christmas, and this is a little save the date for that. Another, you know, other cards we do that are along the same theme of what the brochures are going to be like, what it's going to be like when you see it on social media and on the email blast. So keeping consistency for that particular house that is important to me. And then getting people in the house, because you never know who's going to have a buyer, and just I believe that just getting agents in the door to see a house that's really special, they will then hopefully start thinking, who do I know that might love this house? So, yeah.
You and I also are in breakfast clubs. We
Oh,
are always networking about a house. You never know who's going to bring the buyer. You might know the agent, you might not, but you, especially one of your strengths, I feel like, is you tell everybody. Like you're texting everybody about, if it's a big special house, you're texting everybody about it. You're reaching out personally. You go to see everything that's like it in the area.
Like Lanapar has a lunch today over on Castlewood, I believe, but it's on my calendar. I want to go, number one, to support her, also because who knows? I
There'll
might
be
think
other
of-
agents there
yeah.
who have that buyer.
I'll talk about my upcoming listings. Who do you have that's out looking for a house? What are they looking for? And then I'll see if I can plug them into one of my coming soons. I just believe Barbara Mutno would agree. A lot of us that have been doing this a while, it's all about who you know, realtor wise, talking to people, picking up the phone and calling, especially if you have buyers and you can't find what you're looking for. And if you have the listing, making sure they know about my listings.
And there are obviously like the coming soon forums. Doing coming soons on social media is really big. That's the kind of thing that moves the needle before you go on the market and really helps.
Being tenacious,
Being tenacious.
not waiting for things to happen. We were talking about-
No,
we just
yeah.
don't wait. We don't
No,
wait.
We don't.
Especially if I think one of the things that gets really tough, this is after you've launched it. So we've launched it, we had this great party, we had great open house, and everything's feeling really great. Oh gosh, I'm gonna get an offer, and then nothing happens. So then you're sitting there, and it's been a week, which now seems like 2 months.
2 years, yeah.
So we sit there and we wait, and nothing's happening. So then what do? Put all this energy into getting it on the market. Then that's when I think it gets really hard, because your seller's a little disappointed. They're a little deflated because everybody's used to things selling quickly. So then that's where I got to dig deep, pick up the phone and call them, do research, find things to talk to them about. I reached out to this person, and this person. I sent out this social media post on this date. I just staying in touch with them and letting them know things are looking good with their price, or maybe we need to adjust, but not being afraid to call and talk to them. I think communication is key to keeping your sellers informed and feeling good about your work.
It's part of the reason I do open houses, hopefully on Saturday and Sunday, but definitely on Sunday. It's not necessarily because a buyer is going to walk through the house. It's because I want people to be able to get in the house. I want there to be activity in the house. Like there's got to be some energy around it. If it's, especially if the house is unoccupied and we can do them, why not do them? Like,
Do you see many people coming in on Saturdays on open
not
houses?
as many, no, but if
It's vacant.
if it's
Might
vacant,
as well.
yeah, it might as well. Like I would probably personally rather go on a Saturday rather than a Sunday.
Right.
So yeah, why not have it? It also is one of those things, if somebody sees it on Wednesday and they know there's an open house on Sunday,
Mhm.
a buyer rightly or wrongly, assumes that there's some pressure to go ahead and make that offer. And right now, that's the kind of like pressure you need to generate,
Right.
because people feel like they have a little bit more time and they feel a little less urgency to make offers. But if you know an open house is coming up as a buyer, that may push you to make an offer sooner rather than later. There's at least like, real or imagined, there's some sort of deadline.
And also, I think right now, we were in a meeting early this morning, Wendy and I, and just feeling like we've got to work on finding ways to create a sense of urgency, because buyers are not feeling that sense of urgency. And so what are things that we can do? Sometimes it's nice if you've got back-to-back showings. So if there's a way for people to see that other people are showing the house, instead of feeling like, oh, I've got all week, there's no sense of urgency, but the more we can create that in whatever ways you see that are appropriate for that house, we need to do that.
Yeah.
Any questions for us right now? Yes, sir.
You all, just take very according to your price point, what you pay for your clients, like pictures, scrubber, closing, staging, you have a certain thing you do no pay for?
I don't have a particular budget. I just kind of look at what needs to be done for that particular house. Like, I use one photographer, I just pay whatever he asks, because he's the one that we use. And so,
It does a little bit depend on, it's everyone's unique and different. I think about it, and this is agent to agent, this is not like agent to consumer. Remember that every piece of marketing that you create for a house is a piece of marketing for you as well. So that's how you do anything, is how you do everything. If you are marketing a $500,000 house or a $300,000 house or a $3 million house, like presenting it well is going to present you well. So I pay for the video, I pay for the professional photography, I pay for the house to be measured. I do all those things because I know I'm getting paid well to sell this house, and I want to show that I do things well. And it's a win-win for everybody, which is a big.
sounds like you're very consistent with all your listings.
Yeah.
Everything's the same. So
Yeah.
I think that's good. Like
Yeah.
other people are noticing and watching that, other sellers that live on the street, and probably are super impressed by that.
Question, for those of us like me who are earlier, later in the business, and maybe just getting our stride with getting some listings, and sellers who are still, the one-stop shop, we wear all the hats. But is there somewhere you could recommend for, again, someone just really picking up some steam, working with listings on where we could best spend some money to help us, whether it's marketing, if we're doing our own marketing, or staging, or just some advice on, again, I don't have a team yet. I don't have somebody that does my marketing. So I'm daunted by the amazing stuff that I see from you all. Where's a good place to really start with your efforts and monies?
I think Parks and Village has such a great suite of different offerings right here under roof. So I would start with that as your base. And then if there's certain things you might want to just embellish a little bit using the marketing people that we already have here. I just want to encourage you to kind of use what we've already got.
I think there's some nuts and bolts things that you can't discount. Like, you always send e-blasts. I always send e-blasts. I know people get a million e-blasts, but you know what? I just personally bought a property last week off of an e-blast. So, I would not have seen it otherwise. I think that's a good place to start. Things that are free to you or very low cost are things like e-blast, very low cost to you as an agent. Social media is free. Don't spend all your time on it, though. It's not a golden
And
goose egg.
inviting those other agents to post on your listings as well.
Yes, I would like to say it loud. If you want to post on my listings and credit me listing it, you don't have to ask me, just post away. Happy to do it.
Well, I can say, you posted on, it's in Worth and Lofts, and you posted something a couple of days ago, and I sent it to an out-of-town client. I wouldn't have seen it otherwise because I don't know who the listing agent is, but I wasn't following her, but I followed you.
Yeah, but I always do ask though.
Right.
I always ask an agent before I post their listing, and I always credit them as the listing agent.
I do think there's a lot of free opportunities between the e-blast do cost a little something,
Yeah.
but but not that much. But I agree with going with as much.
Are you asking how do you attract more listings for yourself, or how do you best market a listing? Which, like,
So
what-
that's
what's
smart.
the-
Let's
yeah.
say I have somehow advantage to get someone to allow me to
Yeah.
list their property. But then again, not having a whole lot of experience
Yeah.
in that and not having a huge budget for that yet.
Yeah.
Where to really.
Don't leave any, like low hanging fruit, like Central Tennessee buyer and seller, like coming soon. Make sure you post it there, like a few days before at least, things like that.
Also like doing a simple little breakfast. I think when I do my events, it's about making it easy for people to come in the house. So, 9 to 10 at a little place, and you make a breakfast casserole and have some juice and maybe some coffee or some water bottles. You're making it easy for people to see the house. And it's just another opportunity. You're touching all the realtors and reminding them you've got this listing. So there's so many inexpensive ways or clever ways to get people in. One of my assistants, she thought it would be fun to have like a cotton candy event. That's kind of random, but there's clever ways to think outside the box that reflect you.
It is about getting people in the house, though. It creates energy for you. It keeps you attached to the property. It keeps people in it. And it just, like you said, if you're doing a broker open or you're doing even a coffee in the morning, it's another reason to send an e-blast or an invitation or reach out to somebody and say, hey, come by and see this.
And it's fun to get to know the other agents.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions right now about launching the listing? If not, we'll kind of transition into, so you launched it now, what happens?
Now we sold it and
It's sold before it was.
so you're
you've
saying
launched
how do
it?
we negotiate?
So, yeah, well, now that it's been launched and maintaining it, it
Oh.
could be, Mary Beth touched on earlier, but
The
you don't have an
tenacious,
offer in the first 12
Right.
months. So, moving things along, you touched on that some with
Yeah.
the continued social media, but then also I think that would come in, then we'll come into, okay, now you're starting to get offers and how you're talking to the sellers about them and that sort of stuff.
Well, before you get offers, if you are dragging on a little bit longer than you had
Right.
hoped, keep going over to the house, like go over there before showings, turn the lights on, keep yourself, like sometimes when something's not going really well for us, we want to distance ourselves
Right.
from it a little bit. Don't let yourself do that. Like,
Yeah,
keep-
I would agree.
keep being
Do
attached.
everything you can,
yeah,
be it open houses, be it realtor events, be it sending out the email blast. It's just, there was one friend of mine that had a house that just was not selling. And I was like, they're reducing the price. They were hosting but every time I turned around, there was another email or another social media or another, I was like, gosh, though, that agent is working it hard. I mean, and I acknowledge it when they finally got it under contract. They stayed in communication with their client and said, okay, we're going to do it at this price for this amount of time. If it doesn't sell, we're going to discuss again, reducing the price. We're going to have a plan. And then it was like, I thought, oh gosh, they are working every Saturday and Sunday to get it done. And eventually they got it
Yeah.
under contract.
be
So-
thoughtful with your feedback too. Like you need to be candid, and sometimes again, like if something that doesn't feel great, you want to distance yourself from it. You need to make sure that you're giving them feedback. We had this many showings. We had this kind of feedback. Call and get feedback from people. Don't complain that agents don't leave feedback. Everybody's got a life. Like if you want feedback, call them and get it.
It was like that cute little house that you all have on West Grove.
Yeah.
And it wasn't selling. We all thought it would have flown off the market the first week, but it didn't.
Yeah.
So then I went over there for a breakfast club that she had. invited
Fabulous
to.
Breakfast Club.
So we got there and I was like, it kind of smells a little musty in here.
Yeah.
Maybe other people are thinking it smells musty. So I was open and honest with you about the feedback. Then the next time I went over there, it was much fresher. and
Yeah,
The doors were open and a little candle or something
Yeah.
was going. So,
because it was empty and
Uh-huh.
probably, it
so
needed
So
that.
as a favor to our coworkers, please be honest. If you notice something, you think, gosh, this would help you sell, I always appreciate.
Yeah, I do too.
Is the price reduction schedule written, as a part of the listing that we have written down for your client? Is that part of your practice?
Depends on the listing.
I mean, it hasn't been necessary over the last couple of years,
Right.
but now it might.
It could be you start off the listing and you think it's going to sell quickly, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
Then I would follow up with a conversation with them, and then I would probably email them. It's in review. This is what we talked about today. Are you good with this? This is going to be our plan. So having it in writing, because nobody remembers as they start getting a little more and more frustrated with the process.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'll ask people, how do they want feedback? Some of my clients do not want to hear any bad feedback. They don't want to hear it. Just tell me when I got an offer, but I'll often ask, how do you like to be communicated with? Do you like text, email, call? I can adjust to whatever works best for you. But asking them how they like the feedback has become important too. No, you're good.
So how fast do you go to suggesting or even considering a price reduction? Is it just, I imagine it's individual for every property.
It's individual, it's about timing too.
And if I know I've overpriced it in the beginning because they were pushing me to overprice it, I might have had that conversation earlier.
Yeah.
But if sometimes it's just, I'm not getting enough people in, maybe that's my sign, but.
Yeah.
um,
Also remember, like, we're very process oriented as agents, like, we get this listing, we get it on, we gotta get it sold, we do these things. And this is somebody's largest personal asset, and a $10,000 reduction is $10,000 less than they thought they were gonna make. So you need to be sensitive to that. Some people are more patient than others.
Right.
Some people know they have a great property and they're like, I'm willing to wait a little bit.
mhm.
Time on the market doesn't necessarily equal a higher sales price. In fact, it generally goes the opposite way. However, we both had things that have sat on the market for a while and then boom, got their list price. It depends on timing of the market in the individual house.
And being confident in the price that I have for the house, as I'm talking to other agents, as I'm talking to other buyers. So a lot of times I'll go there and get my lights on. I'll wait for the buyer's agent and the buyer to come. I'll say, oh, I just have a couple of things I want to point out, then I'm gonna get out of your hair. But taking that time to show it's important to that buyer's agent and that my client knows that I'm doing that extra step. Because honestly, I'm not that busy that I can't be at every one of my showings.
Right.
I don't have that many listings and there's not that many showings happening. So giving it the best, doing everything I can to do the most for my client is important.
Would it be fair to say that, Mary Beth, you spoke specifically earlier about taking the time with the pre-listing interview to use that to build rapport, that if you've really done a good job on that on the front end, that some of these conversations could be a little easier, or because they know you and it's less personal, or is it just going to be a hard conversation regardless when you have a drop in price?
Some are much easier than others. I do feel like the deeper and the closer I know the people and how they process things, the better it's going to go, so that I can pivot and deliver the message better.
Some people are really moved by comps. Some people are really moved by feedback. Some people are really moved by the anxiety of time ebbing away. It depends. But also, like, it's not always price on a house. Like, there may be, if there is a specific objection that has been coming up and showing, you can fix that, then you fix that instead of fixing the price. You know?
Have you experienced selling anything that was bought at the height of the market? And you have to go back to the seller and say, I'm really sorry, but it's not going to be worth it.
I haven't.
I did in 2008, 2009. Like, I mean, people brought, they brought money to closing when they were selling.
I think that would be.
I haven't now.
I think that would be a very data-driven conversation.
Yeah.
Like, I would come prepared with my data.
Yeah.
And making sure, we had a good conversation this morning about sometimes as we are looking at comps, sometimes we look a little too close in the neighborhood geographic area.
Yeah.
And our conversation this morning was about new construction townhomes and people sometimes looking on the west side and sometimes people looking on the east side. So making sure that we're looking at our data analysis. Somebody's shown a listing of mine that's on the west side over in Charlotte Park or whatever, but maybe I should be looking at where they ended up buying. Did they buy on the east side versus the west side? Because they might be looking at several, or WeHo, as I'm looking at comps. What is selling? Did they not buy mine, but they bought something in WeHo? Are we stacking up bigger than just my geographic neighborhood? But it would be starting as a data-driven conversation.
Yeah.
And then softening it with, I'm so sorry.
Well, we look at real estate in a way that we don't look at other investments too. Like if you bought a stock in 2021 and that stock's not worth as much, you're like, well, of course it's not. And everybody's like, well, okay. But if you bought a house and it wasn't, and you lived in that house that whole time, and you had, if you bought something in 2021, you had a 3% interest rate, you were doing pretty well. That investment worked for you
Right.
to live in it, to have a place to like live, and also a really great interest rate, and you got it at that time. If, again, bring in the other data, but there's value to the fact that you inhabited it for a couple of years.
Do you have
That
one-
might soften the blow some.
Do you have one coming up that's like that?
Yeah, and they, I mean, they always knew, I told them, and, you know, it was one of those sight unseen video, here it is, they love the house, and now have gotten a job elsewhere, and I even brought in, or gave them a contact for a leasing person. So then you rent.
Mhm.
And, you know, so that became part of the possibilities, but, yeah, it's hard to manage those sort of, things. I'm not going to use $50,000. You know, it's hard.
That's great to think outside the box, another solution, rather than, oh, we're gonna lose.
Yeah.
Let's maybe lease for a year, wait for the interest rates to come back down. But
Yeah.
more questions?
Other questions? That's kind of the maintaining the listing. Maybe if it's okay, we'll move into, okay, so you sold. What are you doing afterwards to continue maintaining your business, repeat business? And then using that as, what was it, Zach said earlier, for every listing, there are 3 more transactions embedded in that. Maybe speak to that.
Yeah. Well, if they're staying in town, obviously you have, so you've sold them their next house and you have somebody like built in that's pretty happy and you've helped them transition to move. I am very intentional about keeping in touch with people, not just with, like, I love video, I love social media, I love all those things, but I also send at least once a quarter, I send a physical mailer to people. If I see something that's come up in their neighborhood that they've moved to, like just a one-off house or something, I don't necessarily have to set them up on some automated drip campaign system. I look at MLS every day. So if I know if you bought on Sneed Road, like, and something comes for sale on Sneed Road, I send it over to them like, hey, did you know this is happening? Or one closes there. Hey, did you know that this closed there? That's a compelling note for somebody to get to you via email. I think that those kind of follow-ups are the things that I send monthly. I send Nashville Lifestyles as a monthly magazine subscription. Like there's things throughout the year. I'm constantly like doing little gifts, sending things, giving you things so that you remember that I'm part of your world.
Mine's a little more, I do some mailers, I send that out. I invite some of my past clients to my events. I've been working with a lot more builders now. So if I see something that I think is useful that I'm learning about just in general in the market, I'll send that to them. We'll meet and go to dinner. I do a lot more catering now to the builders. I like inviting them to my events so that they can see what I'm doing for other people and to get to know some of the other product that I'm working on. I call my people a lot. I'm on the phone a lot. I enjoy that. I enjoy connecting with them that way. I usually say, hey, do you have a couple minutes to talk? It's a little more informal of a process. I don't do a bunch of Christmas gifting, although I have done that. I just kind of look at what's arising in front of me. Sorry, it's not as sophisticated.
I do a monthly e-newsletter. I know David does one. I would like to be on David's. I'm not. No. So I don't know what I'm making for cocktails.
You're making a French dip with this. Yeah, well,
Yeah, we need to change that. Yeah. I've done that since I think 2011 was when I started doing a monthly newsletter. I don't do it every single month, but I do it most months, and it's my best art. I have like a 50% open rate, and that really helps keep in touch with people. I'm super specific and intentional about how I do it, especially now. It's less information rather than more. I think that's why it gets open. And it's very, that it is coming from me. Like it's a piece of information, it's something valuable, it's something snappy, and that's it.
Other questions? You mentioned gifts, and kind of skipped over closing gifts or, you know, that transition point between you've closed and you're gonna maintain them. How do you address closing gifts? What do you find to be most effective or that something that helps keep you top of mind or?
I'll bet Mary Beth is great at this. Gifting is not my love language, so like it's hard for me to give my family gifts. What do you do?
I'm kind of the similar way, but
Yeah.
it feels like it needs to be authentic for me to
Yeah.
give something. It just needs to feel like, what are they into? What do they like? Do they like bourbon? I'll give them a nice bottle of bourbon. Do they like working in their garden? Then I'll take them maybe an orchid or something. It's been very all over the board. I do love my signature blue color, so I have a lot of these Prosecco bottles in my signature blue. So if I'm going on a listing presentation, I know deviate a little bit, but I'm going on a listing presentation, sometimes I'll take a bottle of the Prosecco in my cute little blue bottle and give that to them. Sometimes as a follow-up visit with someone, I'll go and drop something off. But it's really, for me, it has to be authentic and feel like I've heard them, something that they said, something that they would enjoy. I could be a little more systemized. I think that would be great if I had a better system for it. But for me, it's like,
I know what we do. I don't do it. The team does it. That's what it is. That's why. Mary B and Natalie are great at gifting, and their love language is gifts. So like we just had a closing where the buyers bought a house with a pool, and they have a little girl, and so Natalie got these Turkish towels, and they were amazing. You don't even know what that is. Like, I got them. They're like, this was on our list of things to get, and so it was fantastic. But then Caroline makes these binders, like for your home. So it includes the listing when you bought the home, your entire inspection report, pockets for any manuals and things like that. So all of these things about your home, you get this nice binder. And so, yeah, while it's not, I want to be clear, they do that. I don't, but that's why we all work together.
Great. I love that. I mean, I'm gonna steal.
The
that.
binder is
Steal the
phenomenal.
binder,
Yeah.
Because then what happens when it's time to sell?
Yeah,
They
they just
pull
take
out
the
the
binder out,
and
right.
they think of.
yeah, you got your tax record, you've got all your things, and you're like,
I
I mean, tell me, like most people in here, even the word realtors, you don't know exactly how big your house is, like square footage, you know, but like you have your tax record, you have your listing, you have all those things printed out. Yeah, it's nice.
I love that. All right, we have 5 minutes left. This is your chance. Down to nitty gritty. For example, how do you make those amazing maps? That was a question.
Caitlin in the marketing department makes them for me. I send her the address of the house, I send her the list of businesses, and I send her little, like, I just screenshot off of the internet, like images of those businesses, and then I send it all to her. If you do it that way, it is less work for her and therefore cheaper for you. So
that's a custom marketing request through.
yeah, I just email Caitlin.
And do you do that, do you request that through Parks Back End? That's a terrible name. Parks Back.
Is it?
Or do you just email?
I just email her. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
the way you're supposed to do it, but that's what I always do.
I think we're supposed to use a custom request form, but I'm like you. I need Caitlin.
Well, I'm meeting with her at 12:30 today. I'll find out
Okay,
how
yeah.
I'm supposed to do it.
Yeah.
All right, other questions? Come on, steal their secrets. Now's the time. After this, they're gonna shut it down.
And I'm just gonna throw this out there. If anybody has any questions or need any help with an event or getting the word out, just call me. You know, I've had a couple of agents that are newer call me and, you know, they were doing something over in the Nations. And I said, oh, I would probably call that deli place out there. And this is what I do. And then I went to his open house and he had like 50 people there. So please lean on me. I'm happy to answer any questions about any listing things. And it's easy, I think, if you're not used to doing it, it's easy to get bogged down on some of these details. I do have a full-time marketing person that I pay a lot of money to, so it frees me up to not feel bogged down. But if she wasn't with me, I would be really struggling. So it is overwhelming, but I'll try to help you figure out ways to make it simpler.
Yeah. And me as well. Like I think you can ask other people, and they've asked me for advice or any sort of help, and I'm happy to give it because it's a collaborative business. We're all trying to get the same thing.
I once had a coach, a real estate business coach, and I would kind of get in my head a lot about, oh gosh, I want it to look perfect. I want it to be this way. And at one point they said, Mary Beth, stop thinking so much, just get the word out, just get it going. So it doesn't have to be perfect, just some messaging out there about your listing, about what you're doing, about a phone call to someone. You'd be like, oh gosh, Rick French doesn't know me, I'm afraid to call him. Just pick up the phone and call, and you never know. Like, I just think, don't think so much, just do and be authentic.
I think the same thing about video. People tell me all the time, like, I'm not a video person. It's like, nobody was. I didn't
Right.
want to be a filmmaker with my thumbs, but here we are. You know, like, this is the world we live in. So you just keep doing it, get less cringy, and get excited about it actually at the end of the day.
All right, last chance for questions or comments.
How much time do you spend on this? Or is it a daily thing? Is it
Oh, that's a good question. I try and do it first thing in the morning. It's the thing I enjoy. I'm not advocating for everybody to spend their morning. That's the thing I like to do though. So like I usually make a post in the morning, but I will know in advance a lot of times what I'm gonna post. So for instance, because I ask everybody if I can post their house, like I have to, not everybody replies to me right away, so I have to like tee up a few. But I do have a data box every third post on Instagram, and so I have to write those in advance. And sometimes I've actually, sometimes I don't, but like today's post was months in the making because it's a writing an offer 101. It's a tutorial, and then it links to a YouTube playlist of like how to write an offer. And so obviously that took me a long time to make those videos, get them on YouTube, do all the things. And then today was the day. But that was 60 days in the making.
All righty, fantastic. Well, we've reached our time limit. We'll be respectful of everyone's time. If you want to stay for an after party, can't guarantee these amazing folks will stay, but we can probably get some more questions answered. Thank you all so much. I know we're all great.